So I had an interesting morning this morning. I had a property management company, a major property management company, tell me that all the eviction moratoriums will be lifted on September 2nd when the moratorium for the state releases. And I thought to myself, can you hear the words coming out of your mouth? Let me get this straight. You think in your mind that they're going to tell our tenants they must shelter in place, they can't go back to work, but they can be evicted? Not in California. So if anybody has this hope that come September 2nd, we're going to be released of all of this, please, I beg you, think about the past history in the state of California and how we're very pro-tenant, because I don't see that breaking up anytime soon. I think that we're going to continue to be on lockdown. This will continue to be affecting us. And there's no way on September 2nd we're going to be able to evict. It's just not going to happen. They will extend that moratorium somehow, some way, come midnight, September 1st. Trust and believe me. Mark my words, okay? I don't foresee that there is light at the end of the tunnel just quite yet. I'm trying to calm back down because I had CEOs telling me I didn't know what I was talking about, and that kind of bugs me sometimes. Like, let me say this as simple as I can for you. All right, anybody got questions for me today?
Well, no. Patty, after the seminar is over, I'd like to talk to you regarding the emails that I sent you. Could we do that after?
Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. Not a problem.
It's very,
I got you.
It's not involved. Universally, yeah.
It's involved. It is very involved. I agree.
And the questions I have is rent increase and 60-day notices. Do you have any information on that?
No rent increases are allowed right now across the state.
Okay.
We're on a rent freeze, and that's for people under the LARSO are asked to not do any increases. Personally, between you, me, and the wall, I wouldn't do a rent increase, a deposit increase, or anything like that until we are ordered to go back to work and we've heard from Fair Housing to make sure it's not retaliatory. It's just not worth the risk right now.
Okay. And then anything on 60-day notices?
60-day notice to terminate tenancy or to increase rents?
No, to terminate.
You can't terminate tenancy right now at all. 30 day, 60 day, 120 day. I sold the property and I want to move into it. We can't terminate tenancy right now.
Okay, that's for keys then.
It's too risky. And we haven't heard from Fair Housing yet for Fair Housing to tell us when is in a reasonable amount of time after an order to shelter in place from our government, after a global pandemic, to increase rents or deposit and it not be considered retaliatory. That's the big thing, is when is it not retaliation? I mean, we're talking about a state where if our tenants call code enforcement, we can't terminate tenancy for 6 months. What do we think a global pandemic's going to do to that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
You never know. But I would just err on the side of caution. Right now, I would not terminate tenancies. I'd keep everybody on a month-to-month, so to speak, so that when the time comes and you can terminate the tenancy, you have the capability of doing that rather than locking them into another 1-year contract. But I wouldn't mess with that a whole lot. Not a whole lot. It's just too risky. There's too much risk for you. And a lot of lawsuits come out of pandemics, and I don't want to say that. Let me rephrase that. A lot of lawsuits come out of a crisis, okay? And I'll give you an example, okay? Last year, not this year, last year we had all those fires in Northern California. I think some god-awful amount of people, 6,000 homes gone. 100,000 people needs to be rehoused somewhere. We saw a lot of lawsuits come out after those fires because people were needing to relocate. Other people were terminating tenancy to try to increase rent so they could get more money because of supply and demand, if you will. We just saw a lot of things evolve because of that. Don't think that this pandemic is going to save anybody, because it's not. It's going to have the same teeth. It's going to set a lot of laws, maybe not necessarily for this pandemic, but probably for the next one that our country faces. We're going to see much more restrictions, stringencies, and much more game plan involved as far as when rents are owed, when rents are paid back. I mean, they're trying to figure it out right now by throwing stuff and seeing what sticks to the wall. Not saying it makes sense, but that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to create the laws around the problem. And usually that comes with trial and error and lawsuits galore. And I don't want you guys to be a part of any of those lawsuits, because they're not going to be pretty, I promise. Don't do it. It's not worth it. And again, that's just my opinion. But you can talk to your attorney. I have somebody that bought a house. They own the house now, and they can't terminate the tenancy to get the people out, even though they're the new owners. They can't terminate tenancy. I'm just like, wow. All those protections and all those things that we had as tools are gone right now. I mean, and I hate to say it this way, and please forgive me for saying it, but come on, you guys, it's just us. It's just us, not justice, just us, okay? We are definitely being taken advantage of by the government, because they think we have deep pockets too, and we can hold people's rents for 12 months and 6 months, and it's ludicrous. Everybody's very concerned about this big wall of evictions that is going to hit once it's time and we can evict. And the reality is, it's probably going to be a big wall of foreclosures the way that these laws are being written. It's just ludicrous. Don't know if you guys are up to date on the new legislation that we're looking at, but there's 3 nasty bills out there. One of them I'm going to say to you guys till I'm blue in the face, tell everybody you know, no on Prop 21. That is affecting the statewide rent control. Basically, it is giving them vacancy decontrol. So what that means in simple English is, if you have a house that you're renting at $600 a month and your tenant moves out on their own, and you want to bring it up to market value, and market value in, let's just talk, is $1,500 a month, you can't. Prop 21 is taking that away. You'll only be able to raise the rent whatever the state annual rent increase is. So if it's 5% plus the CPI, that's all you're able to raise when your property goes vacant. No on Prop 21, you guys, it sucks. It also states in Prop 21 that how you have title is going to be even more restrictive. Unless it's by an individual, you have rent control, okay? That being said, family trust, living trust, LLCs are all going to be rent control now. Only the individuals held by individual names are going to be non-rent control. So we want to vote no on Prop 21, because this really, really affects us. There's something else that it has in there. And all properties over 15 years old will have rent control unless held by an individual, is how I read that. So again, very scary. Everything that we won when they passed AB 1482 and everything that we fought for, we're now facing it again in Prop 21. And talk to your tenants about it too. And I know that sounds funny and it sounds ridiculous and it sounds ludicrous, but hear me out, okay? Because there's a whole side that tenants aren't aware of either. In the event that only individual homes that are less than 15 years old don't have rent control, and only properties that are held by an individual name, meaning Joe Blow and Jane Blow, okay? That house won't have rent control, but everything else will. If it's in an LLC, a family trust, a living trust, I mean, they're trying to really put some restrictions on us. My question to you becomes, how many of those owners are going to go, forget this, I'm out, and sell their investments, or ultimately lose their investments because of all this COVID stuff going on? And now we have corporate America purchasing these properties. Well, my question to the tenant becomes, is corporate America going to work with you on your credit score? Or how about on your security deposit? Because, you know, it's us mom and pops that say, we'll work with you. You can make your rent in 2 payments monthly. We'll work with you in the deposit, and you can pay. Corporate America is not going to do that for them. And if they don't qualify to live in a high dollar, upscale apartment complex, what makes them think they're going to qualify to live in the apartment complex they're already in once corporate America owns it? Just saying, it affects them too. And we need to make sure that they're aware of how this is affecting them. Not so much on the rent control issue, but who's going to work with you? Because corporate America does not work with tenants, not at a level that the mom and pops do, you know? So just saying, we're going to see some big issues coming in there as well. I'm 90% sure that that's not going to fly well, not with tenants either. So no on Prop 21. Another one that we're looking at is a Senate bill that says that we basically, as landlords, must forgive the COVID rent loan. Hold on, it gets better. That we have to forgive the COVID rent loan, that the tenants now owe that money to the state of California and have 10 years to pay the state of California, and we get a tax credit. And you know, a tax credit for what is owed to us versus what we're actually given is always much different than it sounds. But basically, we would get a tax credit not until 2024, I believe, is how that assembly bill reads. So they want us to forgive all the rent that was owed during COVID that wasn't paid, okay? Tenants now owe that to the state of California, but we have to wait 3 more years and we'll get a tax credit. A tax credit for what, $12? I mean, come on, we're talking about a lot of money here. So there's some nasty legislation up right now. I know the PAC is doing everything they can to beat it, so is AGLA and our big apartment associations, but it's scary, some of the stuff that they're coming up with. A lot of us as owners want help and reassurance right now. We don't want to wait till 2024 to figure out how this is gonna go. I mean, how does that help us? It doesn't. So I think we're going to see that there's a lot of protections for tenants, very small amount for landlords. And I think this is going to be a big shift in the new America we're going to be living in. Not fun. Anybody have any questions for me? I know we were going to talk about keeping your landlord-tenant balance right. Right now, I'm going to tell you guys, if you have a tenant that isn't taking your phone call, isn't dealing with you, is hiding, not paying the rent, stop banging on their door and asking for the rent money, because you're only standing on your own feet. Once we approach it from a different angle, you may be able to get that line of communication back, but stop asking for the rent. Ask them if they have any repairs that need to be done. Ask them if their kids have started school and if they're doing that online, virtually, or if they're back in. I mean, just open those lines of casual communication and leave it at that. Haven't heard from you in a while. Just touching base, see how everything's going. Are the kids back in school? Have you got it cleared to go back to work? Just wondering how you're doing. I haven't heard from you. Don't talk about the rent money. Don't even discuss it or bring it up. If they bring it up, listen. Smile a lot and don't give a lot of information. Just listen. Like I said, my tenant was late on their rent this month, unfortunately. She told me she was going to be late. I didn't have to tell her. She said she'd make a big portion of it, which she paid almost all of it. I think she was short like $150. The following week, she paid me another $75. The following week, she paid me another $50. She's all paid up now. If all they're going to be behind is $125, we still want them to pay that big portion. You know, that's the big picture here, is help me make the mortgage. So we don't want to completely discourage them from paying what they can pay right now. We want to encourage that by keeping those lines of positive communication open. So in the event that you're talking to your tenant, try not to mention money, okay? I know it's difficult, but try. Ask them if they have repairs that need to be done. Talk to them about the kids starting school again and how that's working out. just in a curiosity manner is, hey, are you doing online schooling? What does that entail for you? Because it might help you understand also what they're still going through and what they're still dealing with. I know my grandson, he just turned 6. He started first grade, and he went from last year being online, if you will, twice a day for an hour, to sitting there for 6.5 hours with no breaks, no nothing. It's just very, very different. So just something to think about is we're all still being affected by this in many different ways. We want to keep those lines of communication open, the positive communication. Very, very important that we try so hard to keep that landlord-tenant balance right. We do not want to cross that line. Once you cross it, it's kind of hard to get that back. Anybody have anything particular that they want to talk about today? Other than you, Lee, because I know you're in the middle of a shit show. And I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody. I keep it real, and I say how it is. But I used to tell people I run a shit show for a living. I sell out of tickets. Sometimes you get a midday matinee. Sometimes you get a midnight performance. You never know. You never know in the shit we deal with what's going to happen. I think that's why I love the industry so much, is you never know what's going to happen. It's kind of unpredictable. Every time the phone rings, it could be something different. I think that's what I enjoy so much about it. It's always some sort of a challenge. All right, anybody have anything particular that they need to talk about, want to get off their chest, have questions about?
I just have a quick comment.
Okay.
Make America great again.
I try so hard not to talk about politics on here.
I know you're within shooting distance of the White House, not literally, but you know, make America great again.
I'll be real honest when I say this. Do I think Trump is the best person that we have? No, not necessarily. He's a really good businessman, and I thought of all people he would be able to get us out of debt. You know, hey. Our choice is Biden, and I've watched a few speeches of his, some of his talking points, and it's more than apparent to me that he has early stages of Alzheimer's. I mean, how can you forget what you're going to say mid-sentence? And it doesn't happen once or twice. It happens quite often. So I'm concerned with that. I'm very concerned with that. And I'll leave my statement at that. You know, we're going to vote however we're going to vote, and we're going to hope that's going to work out. And the reality is we're in the middle of this pandemic. We're in the middle of wildfire season, because in case you guys didn't know, in California, that is a season, okay? I was just telling someone, all we need now is an earthquake and we'd be set, right? Wildfires, earthquake, pandemic, oh yeah, rioting, it's just wonderful. It's a scary place right now, very scary place. Not fun, but we'll get it figured out. That's what we do, you know. Long-term investment, we're looking at the big picture. I'm not too concerned about the whole shit show, if you will. It'll all come to a halt at some point or another. Something will happen to gain control. Something needs to happen to gain control.
I guess we call that flush cycle, huh?
Yes, and fair warning, I will be back in California in mid-month, next month, mid-month. I'm coming back. Just in time for fires and earthquakes, I'm sure.
Your background is beautiful.
I am in Pennsylvania on a 20-acre farm.
It looks beautiful.
And I love it out here. It's beautiful. I have deer that come right up here at night. It's great. And fireflies. We don't have those. We have them here. They're very weird, strange, odd little things. Fireflies. Fun to watch. Anybody have anything that they want to get off their chest, that they have as a problem, a question, a concern? When do I see light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, whatever you guys want, get in my brain.
It's
I
all
got nothing.
it's all hunky dory, I guess.
Everybody's a happy camper. Yay!
Not
Yay!
me.
I know. Joy doesn't have a speaker today. Okay, no problem. If you need something, just type to us, girly. Let me look and see. I only got part of that chat. Yes, it is very depressing right now. It's very scary right now what's happening. And remember this, we can't fix it. We can't control it. We're along for the ride. So buckle up. We're not driving. We're not in control. COVID-19 is. And then I see a question. Hang on. Is there nothing we can do to get rent at all? Yeah, there's some things you can attempt to do, but it depends on what your tenant's doing. If your tenant's not talking to you and they're closed up in their unit and they're not communicating with you, that's already a problem. Okay? So for me, and I see another question come through, I'll get right to that. Just bear with me. For me, I try a different avenue. I call them and ask them, hey, haven't heard from you for a while. Is everything okay? Do you have any repairs? Anything that I need to know about? Preventative maintenance, you know, it just try to start those lines of communication. Hey, just wanted to reach out to you and see if your kids started school. My grandkids are starting school in another state and I'm not sure what they're doing, but I kind of wanted to know what's going on here. So don't call them about money, okay? Call and talk to them about other issues, other scenarios, other things that may reopen those lines of communication for you. You could collect rent with a 12-gauge shotgun, but it's not legal in this state. And just so you know, I know nothing about criminal law, so I can't help you. And I'm trying to be a little humorous because it is really depressing. Our hands are tied. There's not a whole lot we can do about any of it. Okay, let me see what the other question was that came through. How much do you budget for repairs on a single family residence that's in normal condition? I don't budget for repairs technically. What I do, and everybody's different, is I keep 6 months of mortgage payments in the bank. Just 6 months for each one of my properties. So that if I have a crisis or a problem, I can dip from those funds, or if something happens, I can float that property for at least 6 months without having to touch any other reserves or any other money. So what I do is just set up a slush fund of 6 months of rent and hold that there as my own slush fund, so to speak, that if I have a vacancy, I need repairs, usually I can flip a unit real quick. Depending on the damage, even with extensive damage, I've been doing this long enough that I could flip a unit really quickly. In the event that I have 2 months where I'm rehabbing and another month where I'm trying to get it rented, I still have 3 months sitting in the bank of funds if I use these 3 months to pay a mortgage, if that makes sense, without dipping into any other savings accounts or anything along those lines. So for each one of my own investments, I keep 6 months of rent in reserves for emergencies, repairs, unpaid rents, things of that nature. Looking at this COVID pandemic, I'm starting to wonder if I should make that like 8, 9 months, maybe a year. I'm not sure. But for me, it's 6 months. That may be changing. I hope that answered that question. Let me see if we have another one. Okay, that makes sense. Great. I'm glad that made sense to you. It's just what works for me. It's always worked for me. You know, you have a water heater go out, there's $1,000, you know, you just automatically know. At least it's not coming out of your day-to-day operations if you have that set aside and you can rebuild it as needed. So that's what I've done. It's worked for me. I've been able to hold my properties using the 6 month of rent rule. Plus the tenant's deposit, of course. All right, anybody else? Nope, okay. I'm gonna warn you on this. If eviction is something that you're looking for to help you get out of all of this, please stop thinking that direction. I think it's gonna be a long time before we're able to successfully evict someone for non-payment of rent. You may wanna reconsider offering them cash for keys, just to forego the lengthy process that that's going to take once we do have that available to us. Just a thought. Okay, There's nothing wrong with getting into 6 months of reserves to pay out some money to get that tenant to go away so you could reboot, reload, and start over, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Anything else? Oh, hold on. I got another one. Joy had a question. I think I answered Joy's question. She said there's nothing we can do to get the rent at all. We can't, from a legal standpoint, no, there's not. It's still a COVID rent loan. How long we're having to give that loan depends on your municipality by county, usually, unless you're in the city of Los Angeles, like I said. And then that's how much time, let's say we're on lockdown for 8 months. Hang on, a big truck's going by. A big tractor, okay. If we're on lockdown for 8 months, we have 8 months of rent. And if the city says they have 6 months to pay that back, we're now looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 months where we don't have any rent coming in for that money that was owed to us. So it's going to make it extremely challenging and difficult for us as landlords if we have someone that isn't paying us. Again, I try to reopen those lines of communication by not discussing money, not discussing unauthorized occupants, not discussing anything wrong, but opening that door of communication of, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Do you have some repairs? Do you have kids in school? How are they going back to school? Just try to open those lines of communication without talking about money. And I see Joyce texting some questions in, so let me get to them. What do you do when they don't even want the cash? On a cash for keys offer, get someone else to negotiate it for you. And you can do an annual property inspection if they'll let you in. So we can't force entry right now. So what I would do is I'd call them and say, hey, it's time for your annual inspection. Just wanted to know what day would be good for you or if that works for you right now, because we don't want to expose them to anything. We don't want to break any rules, so to speak. But I just communicate with them, hey, it's time for that annual inspection. When would be a good time to schedule that for you? And see what kind of response you get. If you get, I don't want anybody in here because of COVID, then okay, as soon as COVID's lifted, we'll go ahead and postpone that and reschedule it for a later date. The reason that I say that is by serving notice and then forcing entry, who's to say you're not bringing them illness that they caught somewhere else, but you know they're going to point the finger at you. So we want to make sure we're not doing that. Also, our recourse, if they don't let us in, is to evict. We can't. So why threaten that if we can't do it? I'm the kind of person that says, if you don't do this, I'm going to bite you. And when they don't do that, I bite you. That's what I do. But if I can't bite you right now, then what am I doing? Just threatening you by serving you notices? I mean, come on. How would you feel if somebody was doing that to you? I mean, it's just, it doesn't create the nice bond we need to make the business relationship work. It causes frustration and anger and irritation. And we need to be careful that we're not feeding that fire and we're feeding more of the concern fire. I've been having my residents take pictures right now. Is that okay? Until things get better. Take pictures of what, Joy? You're having them take pictures of things that are wrong with the property? Repairs, things like that? Because if they want something repaired, by all means, send a workman over there. But if they don't want anybody in their house, you can't. Okay, let's see. My owner's doing a refi appraisal and needs to go in. Can the tenant ask for the appraisal people to do a COVID test? They could. They could. You know, I would just tell them, hey, we're coming in. I'd have them wear a full paper suit if that makes them feel better. You know what I mean? Have them go in a hazmat suit. We just don't want to expose the tenant because, and I know it's an argument for a court because then opposing counsel is going to say, prove to me where you got COVID from. And they're going to have to attempt to prove that. Of course, they're going to point the finger at you. And I don't want the finger pointed at you to begin with, because now you're in litigation, and litigation is the most two expensive things that we deal with, time and money, and that's what litigation adds up to. time and money, and it costs us both ways. Oh, in lieu of the annual inspection, you could take pictures. You can do that too. You really want to get boots on the ground, meaning you physically want to get into that property once you are available and can do that without resistance, just because it helps you in an eviction matter later. If there's scream habitability issues, you can say, I was last in the property on this date and this wasn't an issue. So by doing an annual inspection, and I do it twice a year, just so you know, every time I try to do mine when the time change happens. That's an easy time to remember. Spring forward, fall back. That's when you got to do your inspections. If you get in there twice a year, it's really hard for them to scream habitability issues in an eviction matter because you were in there within the last 6 months. See how that works? So it favors you for that reason. Okay, and I see something else came through. Let me look. Okay, that makes sense to Joy. Okay, great. Glad we got cents in there. I'd rather have dollars than cents, but you know, we can't always choose.
Andy, I have a comment for some of the things are coming up here. Just
Okay.
as a reminder, you know how we're in this COVID period from an owner standpoint, some of these banks are doing forbearances, right? And
Yes.
that can provide relief for the owner as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, trying to look for money from the tenant, it just puts it in a forbearance. It takes some pressure off. Just
So let me explain what Nick's speaking of, just so everybody knows. If your tenant's not paying the rent, call your lender, okay? What your lender may be able to do right now is just tag these extra months onto the end of your loan, okay? That's a lot of what they're doing, is they're forgiving this time period and tacking it on the back end. So it's not necessarily making anything worse. Did I get you guys back? Sorry, I got a call in that mess. It's not actually making your payment go longer because you're not owing it now. But let's say 5 months worth of rent goes on the very back end of your loan. So instead of a 30-year loan, you may have a 30-year and 5-month loan, if that makes sense. So basically they're taking the mortgage payment that's due now and putting it on the very end of your loan as an additional monthly payment towards the end. But yes, if they're offering that, by all means, run with it, because they're not going to offer owners help like they're offering tenants. So in the event that something comes about, don't wait till tomorrow to apply yesterday. Okay, you could always deny right before those terms come out, but you can't get in that waiting list again. So run to get in the waiting list, then find out what the terms are. If you're not interested, don't sign up. If you are interested, at least you got your foot in the door. All right, anybody else? How about these rent assist, hold on. How about those rent assistant fund, what the tenant can apply? Is it worth it? It just depends. It depends on how the cities are doing that. Some cities are offering a rent assistance fund and they're paying the landlords directly through that funding. That's money coming to you. So it just depends on the program involved. If the tenant's signing up for it, that's on the tenant, okay? If you're signing up for it, that's on you. So utilize whatever you can or whatever you need to in order to get through this. And be ready, because here's my opinion, not my advice. Remember, I know just as much as you do, but I could tell you a market crash is coming. All the signs are there. All the symptoms are there. I have lenders, appraisers, mortgage brokers, all telling me the same thing. Yeah, Patty, you're right. A market crash is coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Know that. Be ready for that. Be prepared for that. In a market crash, you may have to reduce your rents considerably. Okay? I know because I've lived through a few of them. So reducing rents considerably to bring them down to market value is what the problem is. So sometimes you have to rebuild. So as an example, if you're getting $1,500 a month right now and the market crashes, you may be down to $895 a month in order to keep a tenant in there. Okay? So when the market crashes, and that allows, be ready for that because it's coming. And that's usually what happens is in order to keep a tenant in our property, we now have to reduce the rent to what market value is, if that makes sense to you. Okay? We can't keep them in there at $1,500 a month while everybody else is paying $900. They will leave. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Okay? You would do the same thing. Okay? You would. Be honest. Be honest with yourself, because then that helps put things in perspective a little bit better. But we would do the same thing. Would you move if you could pay half the rent half the mortgage you're paying now? Yes, you would. So will your tenants. So we have to ride the waves accordingly. As my girlfriend says, just keep surfing. The waves are going to keep coming and we got to keep surfing them, okay? Anything else? Nothing? Okay, next week I will be coming live on Wednesday with you guys, and I will be in, where will I be? Baltimore, Maryland. So Maryland next week. The week after we'll be in Cape May, New Jersey for our Wednesdays with Widget. Hope to do that on the water so you guys get to see that. And then I'll be home back in California to run from the riots and the fires with you guys. All right, anybody have anything else? Yay, we got everybody's questions answered. I'm excited about that. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for joining us, you guys. I love that we have this capability, you know, to talk about our issues, our problems, our challenges, whatever's facing us, so that we are seeing things clearly. And just heard San Diego extended their eviction moratorium to December 30th, just so everyone's aware. I have no doubt we're going to see that happen throughout the state. Again, how can you tell a tenant they can't go to work and they have to stay at home, but they can be evicted? That is not going to happen. Not in California. Maybe in another state that isn't pro-tenant, but we are very pro-tenant here in California. Remember, 78% of all of our residents in California are tenants. That's why they build so many rights for them. Okay? All right, you guys, I'm going to end today. If you guys need anything, you guys know how to find me. And Lee, I'm figuring you're going to give me a call a little bit later. Give me about a half hour if you would.
Okay, I sent you 2 emails, so can you check them both, please?
I'll check them both, and if I need legal counsel, I'll go to them and I'll email you back.
Okay.
Thank you,
And if
Patty.
anybody else needs to email me anything, feel free to do so. I have no problem being your second set of eyes and looking something over for you before you send it out. That's why I'm here. Don't forget that, please.
Thank you, Patty.
So Patty, did you say you want me to call you back in a half an hour, or what did you say?
Give me an hour.
Okay.
Because I'll review them, and if I need legal counsel, I want to have time to contact them. So
Okay.
Give me an hour and give me a ring in about an hour.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, you guys. And I'll see you next Wednesday. And I think we'll be in Maryland then. So, yay.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.